tonight, you'll press a button to turn off the light. Without thinking twice. But here's the thing, that button didn't exist for 99% of human history. When the sun went down, the world went dark. Completely dark. You couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. And modern humans like you have almost never experienced that darkness. Yet for 300,000 years, your ancestors spent roughly half their lives in near total darkness. Most of the time, they didn't even have candles. Just the black sky, the stars, and whatever fire they could keep alive. So what did they actually do during all those hours? The answer changes everything we think we know about sleep, storytelling, and what it means to be human. Now take your hand off that switch. Take your mind back 300,000 years. The time when the first Homo sapiens appeared in East Africa. There is fire. There is language. But there is no electricity. No street lamps. When the sun went down, life had to stop, or did it? Because our ancestors discovered something. And that something changed the fate of our species forever. Fire. That's where this story begins. You were probably taught this: ancient humans slept at night. When the sun went down, they went into the cave, slept until morning, and woke up when the sun rose. Simple, predictable, animal. But that idea is wrong. Completely wrong. Archaeological findings, neuroscience research, and records from communities still living as hunter-gatherers today tell a completely different story. Night was not empty time for our ancestors. Night was the moment when everything that makes us human was born. Here's the part nobody told you: modern humans don't sleep in one continuous block, and that's actually not a disorder. Historical records, neuroscience data, and even ancient texts all say that for thousands of years, humans divided the night into two separate sleep phases, with a 1 to 2 hour window of wakefulness in between. And what happened during that window will surprise you. But first, we need to start with fire. Because without fire, none of these stories would exist. Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. About 1 million years ago. The oldest solid evidence we have of humans controlling fire comes from here. But fire didn't just provide warmth, it completely restructured the human day. Before fire, we behaved like our primate ancestors. When the sun went down, we climbed a tree or found a sheltered spot and stayed still. Moving at night meant death. Because the leopards, hyenas, and wolves hunting us could see perfectly in the dark. We couldn't. Fire changed that equation overnight. Literally overnight. Think about this for a second. A circle of safety roughly 9 meters wide. That's how much area a campfire lights up. Inside it, no predator comes near. Outside it, you die. This isn't an exaggeration. Anthropologists studying communities still living as hunter-gatherers today have documented that people who wander away from the fire at night face a significantly higher risk of being taken by predators. Even today. So what did this circle of safety give us? Something more valuable than anything before: extra hours. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a striking paper. She had spent years with the Jew/Hoansi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living something close to the original human lifestyle. Wiesner recorded and analyzed hundreds of hours of conversation. During the day, more than 80% of conversations were practical. Who's hunting where, which plants are ready, resource sharing, economic negotiations. Daytime talk was work. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. At night, 81% of conversations were stories. Wiesner argues that nighttime conversation around the campfire was the moment human culture was born. Stories of people in distant places. Adventures. Myths about the origins of the world. Jokes that made the whole camp laugh. Neuroscience backs this up. During storytelling, the brainwaves of the storyteller and the listener synchronize. So a story is more than words. A story is a direct bridge built between minds. The campfire was the world's first theater. Its first classroom. Its first temple. The place where humans learned to think beyond the immediate present and imagine things that didn't exist yet. But the night wasn't only about stories around the fire. Something else was happening. Something scientists only rediscovered in the last 30 years. You were not designed to sleep the way you sleep right now. In 2001, historian Roger Rickert published a paper that shook sleep science. He had spent 16 years digging through historical records, prayer books from the 1400s, court records, diaries, medical texts, letters from ordinary people, even passages from Homer's Odyssey. All of them mentioned the same thing: first sleep and second sleep. Before the industrial age, people did not sleep in one continuous block. Shortly after sunset, they slept for roughly 4 hours. Then they woke up. They stayed awake for 1 to 2 hours. Then they slept again for 4 more hours, until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. This was normal. This was how every human on the planet slept for centuries. But why? The answer lies deep in evolution: checking whether the fire had gone out, listening for predators, keeping the group safe. That middle-of-the-night wakefulness wasn't a malfunction, it was an adaptation. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment. He removed all artificial light from a group of volunteers. 14 hours of darkness every night for a month, just like the period before fire extended the evening. Within weeks, every single participant settled into the same rhythm. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody told them to do this. It just happened. As if an ancient program sleeping inside them had been waiting under artificial light for centuries, and had finally woken up. Ware measured the participants' hormone levels. During the wakefulness window, the brain was producing high levels of prolactin, the same hormone released during meditation and after orgasm. Wait a moment. Read that again. Every single night, our ancestors were entering a spontaneous meditative state of consciousness that modern humans have almost never experienced. Eyes opening after hours of sleep, mind clear but calm, body rested but awake. And this state repeated itself in every human, across hundreds of generations, without drugs or techniques. So when did we lose this, and how? What did people actually do during that wakefulness window? Everything. A 16th-century French physician recommended that couples try to conceive during this window because he believed that moment was more favorable. People visited neighbors, interpreted dreams while they were still fresh. A medical manual from the 1500s advised patients that the best time for meditation and reflection was the quiet hours between first and second sleep. Silent hours. That window when the mind was calm and the world was still. For centuries, historians kept mistranslating the phrase first sleep into something else when they came across it. Because they couldn't even imagine that people might have slept differently from us. Here's the question nobody asks: what did they see in that darkness? Today, seeing the Milky Way means driving for hours to get away from light pollution. For our ancestors, the Milky Way was just the sky. Every night. Billions of stars, visible galaxies, meteors. And that view directly shaped their spiritual world. The oldest cave paintings from around the world contain star maps. Some researchers believe the bull figures at Lascaux represent the Pleiades star cluster. The darkness left them face to face with the universe. And from that confrontation, they created culture. Think for a moment about how Grumk spent his nights. The sun is setting. The fire is burning. Hyena sounds from somewhere in the distance. Grumk is sleeping. For hours later, his eyes open. Outside is pitch black. He can't see his hand. He wants to visit his neighbor, but the neighbor is awake too, thinking the same thing. He stares at the stars. He questions existence. So Grump's nightly activities were far more philosophical than a modern human waking up at 3 a.m. to check their phone. We spend our evolutionary inheritance on screens. That inheritance was prolactin and the Milky Way. The night hours around the fire were the center of bonding even in times when language hadn't fully developed. There was touch. There was music, the world's oldest instruments, bone flutes 40,000 to 60,000 years old, were found in European caves. There was rhythm. There was dance. Neuroscience tells us, participating in synchronized rhythm, making the same movement at the same time, increases oxytocin release, raises the pain threshold, and strengthens the sense of belonging to a group. So those nightly rituals around the fire were a biological adhesive that held the group together. And it worked even without words. But the night wasn't always dance and stories. Sometimes there was loss. A member of the group had died. A child was gone. An elder had taken their last breath. And that grief was lived in the dark. There was no artificial light. No screen to distract yourself with. Just fire, darkness, and pain. Anthropologists tell us, collective grief. Crying together, sitting together in silence is one of the most powerful reinforcers of social bonds. The human brain processes pain alone very differently. Shared pain binds the group together. Perhaps that was the most important function of the night, forcing people to feel together what it meant to lose one another. Kafsa Cave in Israel. About 100,000 years ago. A child's skeleton, buried alongside the skull of a deer. Intentional. Careful. Traces of flower pollen. Plants bent like a cradle. These people grieved in the dark and carved that grief into stone, into soil, into bone. Almost every ancient burial site found anywhere in the world contains the same thing: objects, ritual, care. These graves tell us something: ancient humans weren't just surviving the night. They were debating the meaning of life. And the traces of that debate are still lying beneath the ground, 100,000 years later. Now go back to that switch. It's 11 p.m. and you're looking at your phone. The blue light from the screen hits your retina. Your brain says it's still daytime. Melatonin is suppressed. Sleep is delayed. And at 2 a.m. you wake up, you call it insomnia. But researchers say, people who go camping for just 1 week away from artificial light see their melatonin cycle shift forward by nearly 2 hours. The body starts producing melatonin at sunset. A 300,000-year-old program resets itself in 1 week. That wakefulness at 2 a.m. might not be a disorder. Maybe it's your body trying to remember what it was built for. Our ancestors didn't turn off the light and stare at a screen. They gathered around the fire and told stories, and those stories built a civilization. They slept in 2 phases and gazed at the Milky Way during the quiet wakefulness in between. They grieved together in the dark and laughed together in the dark. We conquered the night. We flooded it with light. And without realizing it, we switched off 300,000 years of inheritance with a single button. Maybe the greatest discovery is this. Lying awake at night is the most ancient human feeling there is. We're just starting to forget why we stayed awake.